All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
We are, no. Already? Hey. Come on. We're live and sanctified, baby. Come on now. Yeah. Don't tell me. I'll tell you. We are on it. Kim is here. I know.
Kim,
she's
how are you?
A fan favorite. We're so glad to have her in the mix. And Tony has worked all night and all weekend.
It's been busy.
Yeah. Tony, you've got a split personality thing going. You know, here we're kind of center lefties. And, you know, Tony's kind of in the belly of the beast of the Death Star of conservative, heavy, alt-right talk, aren't you, Tony? That's what's really happening, isn't that right, Tony?
Thanks, Tony. A little bit.
Yeah.
And also worked on a baseball game this weekend, so...
And also on the baseball game, which has nothing to do with politics. So, look, there's a lot to get to today. Gary Dietrich, the longtime political commentator on KGO and also the political commentator for CBS Television and for iHeart Radio, will be here bottom of the hour, as he always is on Mondays. And we will talk, obviously, about the assassination attempt, but also big news today from the convention. And there's plenty of speculation around the vice presidential choices that Trump may make. The attempt on his life is likely a political winner. I don't mean to reduce everything to politics, but after all, that is the world we're in now. Now that Trump survived, and survived, it seems, with what is equivalent of a flesh wound, essentially, and he played the moment. I mean, Trump, always aware of the visuals, he played the moment. The fist in the sky, the defiant look, the blood on his face. I mean, look, I don't think this is, I always was hearing that in the hours later, and you always hear this kind of thing. It was staged. It was certainly
even
not
with the flag
staged.
in the background. It sure is the perfect shot, though.
Right. And I think that is the case, that it was so lucky and so perfect and such a clean escape with the backdrop exactly as you might have scripted it, that it almost felt as though it was something, and, you know, most of all, that the candidate is essentially unharmed. Most of all, with that said, it did seem like the kind of thing you would fake just that way. But there is absolutely no way it was a fake. I think that is a, you know, I get it, staged. I see we run as SJ, fake. No, I just don't buy it. The 20-year-old, I will get to a description because I'm hearing different things. I will get to his background, why it's complicated, why we can't tell a lot about him. I do really want to talk to Gary Dietrich about the political agenda from here. Not so much that it's informed by this, although it is informed by this on some level. I'll give you an example of why it's informed by this. And we're going to talk more about this, too. I'm seeing it. Karen Q thinks it was staged. Okay. I just don't believe it's even a 1% chance that it was staged.
It's interesting. Vilma, among other people, have said that Trump is going to get a political bump from this assassination attempt. But I wonder why. I mean, why would that change anyone's vote or opinion of him? Because we feel bad for him?
No, it's not going to change your vote. I mean, this is the problem. The left cocoons themselves and goes, how can anybody be more sympathetic after this? The guy's still who he was before the shot was fired, which is, of course, true. But it's not your vote. It's going to animate his vote. his base, people who feel already that he's the aggrieved party. You know, he plays the victim card all the time. This will help him play the victim card in an even greater way. And after all, to be fair, he was the victim. So I think there is that political calculus that goes into it. He will get a political bump, not from independents, not from Kim McAllister, but from his base that will get off the couch and be part of the effort now because they see a besieged president, former president, wannabe president. I also think that this is what I was going to say. There's something that you have to remember when you look at the rhetoric that was being used by the left, okay, by the Democrats, center left, whatever they are, the Democrats. I think they appropriately were saying, this guy's a danger to the institutions of America. He's essentially a governmental terrorist. Right. Look at the people around him. He and his henchmen are going to come in here, dismantle government. They're going to weaponize the Justice Department. They're going to, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are true. You may have to back off on that a little bit now. You may have to back off on it because in an environment of recent political violence of this sort, anything that suggests that that guy's an enemy, anything that casts your opposition in the kind of stark language that I think is appropriate, but I'm suggesting can be now confused and mixed into this, well, look at how essentially the left and the Democrats are whipping up political violence. I think particularly Democrats will stand back from that because they don't want to be accused of that. It's the, typical Democrats always want to seem to do what is the right thing to do, so afraid of their own shadow. Mark, I think it will get a bump from independents. I think all the talk about dictatorship and Hitler has been over the edge, and this is the result that they got. So Mark Perrin, I would say you and I disagree about something. I'll get to the disagreement in a second, but you just agreed with me with your last part of your comment, which is what I was saying, that all the talk about him being a fascist in waiting, a rising despot, these are things that are true. But the reality is that verbiage you may have to dry clean from speeches for a while. I don't know what the cooling off period is, but it's certainly including this week, rather than keep it going and be accused of that feeding frenzy. Now, the other part of what you said, Mark, I forget. It was something about independence or...
We'll get a bump from independents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude. That's weak sauce. That's the independents don't. They're not. You're burnt out on it. I get it. You, Mark, are burnt out on talk about Trump as Hitler or Hitlerian in some way or despotic in some way. You're burnt out on it, and so you're like more angry about it. Like enough already. Okay. I mean, I can just as easily say, I'm over the weaponizing of the Justice Department thing that Trump says all the time. I'm just sick of it already, okay? I mean, the reason you got so many court cases against you, dude, is because you're a lawless freak. That's why you get it, okay? I mean, you believe the laws don't apply to you. And guess what? It looks as though they don't. But prior to the Supreme Court immunity decision, and even that still leaves open the door for prosecutions, the prosecutions and the indictments were appropriate. So, Angel in the Bay Area with a $5 super chat. Big shout out. Us non-Trumpers, see what I did there? Need to get off the couch because of this, too. Exactly. This election does come down to the couch. That's why I was mentioning the power of this event to animate his base, because the couch in American politics is a very powerful drag. Most people don't vote. The last election for president, You saw tremendous turnout, right? There was record turnout. I don't know that you're going to get that this time. You have a general kind of antipathy on the part of the electorate toward both these guys. Like, I think neither candidate is particularly popular. And so I don't know that you're going to get, I think the couch may win on this one. And then at the end of it, it's, well, who actually got the vote out? And that's why this is a powerful event. All right, that's my take on the politics of it. And we'll talk more to Gary Dietrich, who will join us shortly. But I wanted to...
The Mark Thompson Show.
And I'll get to Judge Cannon as well, because Donald Trump is not only the master escape artist when it comes to most court cases, the most damning court case it looks like he really escaped from, and the way that he did it is quite impressive as well. In fact, I meant to send you something. I don't know if you got it, Tony, but let's go back to, I want to go back to what happened, if we can. I mentioned Gary Dietrich. That's the only guest we have today, right, Kim?
Yep.
Good. Okay, good, because we got a lot to do today. So smash the like button like a boss, if you would. Hit the thumbs up. It's helpful.
It with your iron rod.
This is a 2-hour live program. And then we will carve it up, and Tony will release it and drop some videos. By the way, I'll have some emails. There was a hiccup with the podcast getting posted in a timely way. That was Albert's fault, and he apologizes.
Albert, thank you.
In advance.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So, but I appreciate and thank those of you who drop me a line and say, hey, the podcast hasn't gone up, because that's the only way I know that it hasn't gone up. So then I can ping Albert and say, hey, what's going on? So, all right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How did someone get so close to the leading presidential candidate? The Secret Service didn't sweep the building before the Trump shooting. They farm out some of the police work, and they farm it out essentially like this. They have a perimeter, and that perimeter is established, and it is covered by Secret Service. So everything and everyone in that perimeter is covered by Secret Service.
And this This building wasn't in the perimeter?
No, it was outside the perimeter. It was just outside the perimeter. So the next area outside the perimeter is an area that is oftentimes in situations like this farmed out to local law enforcement. So it's not as though they go to sleep on the rest of the area, but they farm it out to local law enforcement. Oftentimes that's smart, because local law enforcement knows the area, kind of knows where they can position themselves to maximally see what's going on. So it's not a completely stupid thing. In this case, there are reports coming out that the Secret Service didn't sweep that building from which the gunman tried to kill Trump, because they did just what I said, that they farmed it out to local law enforcement to secure the location. So you can see in the hours and days after, there will be a full investigation, and there'll be finger pointing both ways. Looks like the feds will be pointing at the locals, and the locals may be pointing back at the feds.
I was watching an interview with a man who witnessed the alleged shooter. I would think that we don't drop the alleged word now, but kind of climbing up the side of this building carrying a rifle. Yeah. And they were trying to point to officers on the ground saying, listen, look at this guy up here, somebody do something. And it wasn't until after the guy was already up on top of the roof and set up that anyone noticed.
That's right. There were screams and people pointing to the gunman. This guy, Thomas Crooks, he's 20 years old.
Looks like I don't understand that part of the security. It seems not.
Yeah, when they're yelling gunman, there's a guy with a gun up there. Like, really, dude? Like, there's not, no one's going to respond to that.
There he is.
Tony,
yeah, that guy.
Yeah, this is, by the way, here's an interesting little digression or side note. That guy he's talking to is with the BBC.
Right.
He's a longtime BBC journalist, and he's blind.
Oh, okay.
He has a great track record and is a really fine journalist. As I say, he's been with the BBC a long time. He has a producer that sort of takes him from here to there, but he still gets the story, even though he is blind. But yeah, this guy was there at the rally, and these guys, the guy on the left, he and his friends set up outside the kind of general perimeter where everybody's being checked for weapons and all the rest. They kind of just hung out back. They could still hear it, he said. This is what the guy was saying. He could hear everything, but he didn't want to go through the trouble of, like going through the magnetometers and all the other sort of screening that exists around the perimeter. So they hung out. And then he was one of the people who was yelling, hey, there's a guy with a gun up there. There's a guy with a gun. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and run what I've got for you, Tony. Let's see what I've now forgotten exactly what it is, but I think there's a piece on sort of the physical arrangement. This is kind of a setup piece, and then I'll play you one more. Go ahead.
Gunfire erupted at a campaign rally for former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, Saturday. Trump said a bullet struck him in the ear. Here's how the attack unfolded. President Trump was speaking from a stage located here, with Secret Service snipers in position on the roof of a building behind the stage. The suspected gunman was on the roof of another building less than 450 feet away from where Trump was speaking, with a clear line of sight.
And look what happened to our country.
Moments before the shooting, we can hear nearby spectators saying they see someone with a gun.
He's got a gun!
At the same time, while Trump speaks, the Secret Service snipers can be seen facing the gunman's direction. We see the agent on the roof pick his head up just before shots ring out at 6:15. Secret Service agents rush to pull Trump to the ground. As they rush him from the stage, bleachers behind where Trump was speaking. A spectator was killed and 2 more were critically injured at the event.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The guy who was killed, of course, was a firefighter who threw himself, I believe, over his family to protect the family. Isn't that right?
Yeah. His wife and daughter. That's right.
Yeah. So you see a little bit there between that and kind of what I was just telling you. You see a little of how it happened and why it could happen. We'll talk more about this with Gary Dietrich and about the political fallout. I did want to mention the other thing that was going on this morning, and it is quite extraordinary because it's really Donald Trump, the escape artist. He's an escape artist like no one else. I mean, who could think that you could jack from the U.S. government thousands of top secret classified documents, some of the biggest military secrets, so sensitive is this information that in the processing of how they would handle this court case, they had to get top-level clearances for the lawyers involved so that they could review the documents that were then going to be at the center of this entire court case. That's how sensitive these documents were. They were taken from the White House, and they were put in bathrooms, showers, ballroom, bedroom, office, closet, thrown in with golf shoes, with T-shirts. And then, of course, to remind you, when the government said, hey, we haven't gotten these documents back and we really need them back, there were efforts made, successful efforts, to turn over a small portion of them and claim that that was everything. I mean, there was a sworn statement signed by Trump's attorney saying that's everything. And then when the government served additional subpoenas, there was an effort made to move the documents, to hide the documents from the government. And so that part of the case which clearly was designed to evade the reach of the government and hang on to these documents for unclear purposes, that part of the case, again, damning. I think there's a lot of stink on it. It will never reach Trump because this remarkable escape artist will escape from this, what I feel is the most damning, easily understood, and inexplicable case. There's no good explanation for what he did.
So Judge Cannon ruled that having the special counsel, Jack Smith, was unconstitutional. Does that mean that the other cases are in jeopardy because of her ruling as well? And could the government refile this documents case in another court against him?
The prosecutorial power wielded by special counsel Jack Smith is perfectly legal. She, Eileen Cannon, suggests that it should have been appointed by Congress and that the funding for it, these are the two things, the appointment and the funding, that the funding should have come through Congress. It was inappropriately funded. Now, this isn't true. It can be appealed. Look at all the other special counsels. There's a special counsel in the Hunter Biden case. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to, stay on the Republicans, and you'd have to go back and rule that the special counsels on the Hunter Biden case and on many other cases are appointed illegally. But it's clearly not accurate, and this will be overturned on appeal. But the point is that she has, as she has done so dutifully all along the way, delayed this now, so it will not see the light of day until maybe if Joe Biden is reelected or a Democrat is reelected, the next administration. But it's very likely it won't see the light of day because it's also very likely that Donald Trump will be the next president. So that's where we sit on that. It's a massive win. I mean, a seismic victory for Donald Trump. So what a weekend for Donald Trump. I mean, he escapes death or injury, serious injury anyway, and he escapes what would be a devastating court case if it ever saw the light of day, the documents case. It is completely scuttled. So that's a summary of where we are as we greet the new week. And
The Mark Thompson Show.
Tony, I have a thought to get to Kim's news, and then I'll get to Dietrich. But before I do that, and this is why I am mentioning your name, is there another piece of video that I wanted to show? I sent you a few things.
Yeah, you sent me the from I think it was MSNBC, the Judge Cannon stuff as well.
The Cannon. Yeah, the Cannon. I kind of just explained it.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to see it. Thank you. I kind of just explained it to everybody. It's
exactly
essentially illegal appointment of the special counsel and illegal funding of the special counsel. Those were her the two hooks on which she hung dismissal of this case. Again, it'll be appealed and it won't be upheld. Her ruling will not be upheld on appeal, just as none of her rulings have been upheld. But it buys Donald Trump the time. And that's what I was saying before. And I do have some additional Secret Service stuff that I sent to Tony, but I'll wait on that until after Kim's news and Gary Dietrich, who will join us, as I say. We'll talk politics. We'll talk about the convention. We'll talk about Biden viability, what's going on. In fact, the Joe Biden off-the-ticket talk, sort of the George Clooney plan, that seems to have chilled for now. But I'll have to talk to Gary Dietrich to get some sort of sense of, what the realities are concerning that. Smash the like button if you would.
Smashed
do it
with your iron
like a
rod.
boss. I also have emails to get to. A couple of emails over the weekend. Our email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. Many of you send stories, which I do look at. If you send videos that I'm supposed to watch, dude, I've got a lot of stuff to watch and read. And it's hard for me to watch a 40-minute video and then a 14-minute video and then a 23-minute video. It's easier for me to read something than it is always to watch a video. But I still try to honor whatever trouble you go to get us a piece of material. So I'll try to watch it always if I can. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com is our email address. Again, hit the like button if you would.
Iron rod.
Yeah, smash it with your iron rod. Kim's News and Gary Dietrich, the great political commentator, as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Here it is. It's the stage at the Republican National Convention, and reports say that former President Trump plans to announce his running mate in the 4 p.m. Eastern hour today. What's that, 1 o'clock our time in California? Yeah. So it's coming. The Ohio senator and potential vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance was seen leaving his Ohio home today in a large motorcade. This is multiple reports say that Trump will announce his running mate, and Vance is on his way to the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee.
Well, J.D. Vance is a bomb thrower. Like, if you want a real Molotov cocktail slinging guy, rhetorically, it's J.D. Vance. He will say anything. He is an absolute pugilist when it comes to rhetoric. Now, prior to backing Trump, he was never Trumper, and he said some incendiary stuff that was really negative. I mean, I think he compared Trump to Hitler, as I recall. Wow. So you're going to hear that in spots, but by the same token, he's pivoted like so many Republicans, and now he's got his head firmly up Trump's ass, and he will sing as loudly as anyone. He is a brilliant speaker, charismatic guy, and probably a great campaigner for Trump. Again, I think he's dangerous. I think J.D. Vance is bankrupt of any kind of morality and ethical underpinnings. But, wow, he knows how to play to the media. And that, I suspect, is of value to Donald Trump.
Well, that's not what we had with Mike Pence. Mike Pence was not bankrupt of morality. He was, Mr. Bible toter, right? So this is a different animal here.
Well, I would also suggest that before you get lovey-dovey with Mike Pence, he was looking the other way on a lot of stuff that violated ethics and morality. But when it finally
push came to shove, yeah, he didn't compromise his own morality when he had to. When the
push
choice
came
was
to
in front of
shove
him.
on the vote,
right,
he stepped up. But I'm not giving him a pass on the crap he looked the other way on and for carrying the water for Trump for 4 years. I won't do it. I get it. Everybody's in love with Mike Pence because he certified the vote. I do agree it was a heroic act, especially when they're calling for your hanging out front, okay? Right. So please don't misunderstand me, but I'm not ready to rewrite the biography of Mike Pence in some kind of way that would suggest he didn't ignore a lot of bad stuff going on at the White House.
Well, speaking of the Republican National Convention, the Secret Service is confirming there will be increased security in the Milwaukee area this week. Director Kimberly Cheadle saying the security plan for the 4-day event has been bolstered. She announced, "We have reviewed and strengthened the security plan since the assassination attempt of former President Trump in Pennsylvania on Saturday." So, speaking of that assassination attempt, a new report says the building where the gunman climbed onto the roof and fired at Trump was the staging area for local police. The staging area. ABC News reports the building was the staging area for local tactical police watching the crowd. And the gunman was able to climb onto the roof without a ladder. The incident still under investigation as the attempted assassination of the former president. So, and as Mark, you mentioned earlier, there they are in the bathroom. Look at them in the shower, near the potty. Look at that. Former President Trump's classified documents case is being tossed out. Judge Eileen Cannon ruling today the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith violated the Constitution. Trump was accused by the feds of taking classified documents from the White House after he left office and illegally storing them at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Yeah. The leaders in California, many of them here, are uniting after the attempted assassination of Trump. They all agree violence has no place in our democracy. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she knows firsthand, recalling the attack on her husband 2 years ago. She asked for prayers. Governor Gavin Newsom sent thoughts to Trump. Everyone impacted by Saturday's shooting at a Pennsylvania rally getting good thoughts from Governor Newsom. Congressman Adam Schiff, also among many who reacted on social media. He says he's the one who led Trump's first impeachment. He is the one who led Trump's first impeachment trial in 2020, and he's now wishing him a swift recovery. Speaking of California, we're playing a role in this week's Republican National Convention. 61 officers from the CHP, Bakersfield, Fresno, and Long Beach are in Wisconsin to begin helping with security today. That deployment was planned in May before Trump was grazed by a bullet during the campaign rally Saturday. He is, again, doing okay, flew into Milwaukee yesterday. Governor Gavin Newsom says public safety transcends party lines. And childhood vaccination rates worldwide have yet to come back to pre-coronavirus pandemic levels. The World Health Organization says 2.7 million additional children are under-vaccinated when compared to 2019. It analyzed estimates from 185 countries. There is a new poll showing the biggest health worry among American adults getting a late diagnosis of cancer. The University of Cambridge study shows 7 out of 10 Americans fear getting cancer that's detected too late to be treated. About 40% of respondents worry about getting the right treatment. Another first for California: a hydrogen-powered ferry making its global debut in San Francisco. It'll be launching on Friday. It doesn't emit pollutants, only heat and water vapor. Sea Change will run 3 days a week, free rides across the bay for the first 6 months. Officials call it the first step toward building a zero-emission fleet. They say it's also helping the state reach its emission reduction targets. So, in the movies, at the box office, Despicable Me 4, the winner of this week's box office for the second straight week, $44.7 million in its sophomore outing. And second, Neon's Long Legs with $22.6 million. And Inside Out 2 continued its run with $20.7 million for a third-place finish. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm drinking it right now.
Have a little sippy sip.
El Gato Espresso. It's so beautiful. 1 second, please.
Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah,
that's right.
Hand roasted, new crop. It's fresh beans. And the Roastmaster General will join us here in the next week or so. I want to talk to him about what's going on. But there are teas and there is that cold brew coffee that's delicious to you. Let it steep overnight. Gets all the richness of Coachella Valley coffee. Then you can have it chilled the next day. Perfect for a hot summer. There it is, the cold brew. Go to CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Try the teas. They're loose leaf. They're bag teas. There's everything really to pour out of a pitcher and into a cup. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is literally the best coffee I've ever had. And I've had coffee all over the world. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. When you check out, use the code MARKT and you'll get 10% off of anything. If you get a subscription there, whatever it is, 10% off if you use MARKT at checkout. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
I'll tell you what, thank you for being here. We're a live 2-hour show, and then our videos can be seen anytime. YouTube is our home platform now. We were a big radio station, KGO Radio, the radio station went away, and we took everybody from the show to YouTube and across all the major podcast platforms as well. Many of you take in the show as an audio podcast. That's cool, too. And so excited that this guy, who is a regular voice on KGO, I mean, a real voice of authority when it came to political analysis, he has come over and joined our show here regularly on Mondays. Now he's a political analyst for CBS Television and iHeart Radio. Wow. How about it for Gary Dietrich, everybody?
Hi, Mark.
Sir, what an eventful weekend, and what an eventful week ahead. I'll start with the weekend, and I will take any takes that you want on the assassination attempt, but then I'm going to ask you, it's on one level an inappropriate question, but now that the guy's okay, I mean, that it's a flesh wound, I think it's the question that is being asked and already talked about in our chat, and that is the political ramifications, how it changes the dialogue, even on the Democratic side, I was suggesting in the last half hour, in the shadow of this assassination attempt.
Yeah, well, let's start with the obvious, Mark, and that is the sobering nature of this is just absolutely, it's inescapable. You know, it's been 60 years since we had a direct assassination attempt on a presidential candidate. Notably and sadly, of course, that happened where you are, the Ambassador Hotel, famously, when Bobby Kennedy, having won that day, not only the California primary, but the South Dakota primary, and then famously from that podium said, now it's on to Chicago. Ironically, that's where the Democrats are going to meet again this year. And of course, he was killed. People forget, however, that also that year, George Wallace was shot as a Democratic presidential candidate. He had already won several primaries in the South. He was paralyzed from the waist down since then. And it's been 60 years. Now, of course, in the 70s, we had the attempt on Gerald Ford's life right here in the state capital of Sacramento by Squeaky Frommman. And then, of course, in the 80s with Ronald Reagan and John Hinckley. But it's been a long, long time. And I think the reason that's important, Mark, is that for people who are, say, under 40 or maybe even 50, this is a brand new day. The notion that a presidential candidate would actually have bullets fired in their direction, regardless of the politics, regardless of the individual. And that, you could tell, shook the nation in a way. Mark, I was at 30,000 feet doing what I do. I was headed back from the Kansas homeland of my family, watching live on Southwest Wi-Fi this event in real time. And I was just, of course, absolutely stunned. You could start hearing little, murmurs around the cabin as people's, alerts were popping up. And then, of course, when I hit the ground in Burbank to change planes to get here in Sacramento, my phone blew up. We had to go live on our 10 and 11 immediately, of course, for CBS, and then iHeart Radio the next morning on a special edition. But, there's a sense of, how do I say this, Mark? There's almost a surreal sense of this, right? I mean, people have talked about this kind of thing, especially related to Trump, and maybe the other direction, given the incendiary, sadly, nature of recent political dialogue. But there was just an almost surreal sense of this, Mark, that I think only now, here on Monday morning, are people really saying, wow, did that really happen over the weekend? And, here we are. All the facts are going to unfold, Mark. And I heard you and Kim talking about it, the security perimeters. You were absolutely right. People kept asking initially, how did this guy get in to the event? Well, he didn't. He was outside of the perimeter area of the event, so there was no magnetometer. He did climb up a roof. Yes, that was witnessed by people themselves who kept, you're right. There's now, Mark, amazingly, there's now real-time video being pieced together that said these shouts from the crowd went for 2 minutes to law enforcement. It wasn't 10 seconds, it was 2 minutes. And, apparently the initial word is, and all the facts will come out, that the folks up on front on the stage, including the authorized sniper behind the stage, could not see him because he was on the other side of the eave of the building.
Right.
And that's the rationale given so far about why he was not spotted earlier by the Secret Service. One last thing, Mark, you rightly pointed out that a lot of people understand that at a presidential event level, everybody is Secret Service. Not so. The Secret Service is actually a small part of the security detail. And law enforcement takes a very large role in a lot of this. And apparently that building had been assigned. There's no aspersions to be cast by me, but simply the facts that local government officials, local law enforcement had been assigned that building. Of course, a lot of people asking the obvious question, why weren't there people on that rooftop to begin with? That'll have to be answered. And there's even questions about whether the sniper themselves who took him out was a local law enforcement sniper, not a Secret Service sniper. So all that yet to be determined, Mark, but that sort of lays the foundation for wherever we want to go politically from here.
Yeah, and so I was saying in the last half hour that the rancor that has informed this entire discourse around presidential politics, it is going to change probably, at least in the short term, because of the shadow of this assassination attempt. Don't you agree?
Oh, we've already seen that, Mark. I mean, President Biden's remarks last night certainly echoed that. The fact that he called Donald Trump, and if you listen to people, I was dialed in 24/7, of course, for the last 47 hours. But the president, when he made his initial remarks from his beach home in Delaware, said, I'm going to call Donald. I'm trying right now to get a hold of Donald. He never refers to him as Donald. And by the way, he did reach the former president. They did have a brief, but apparently quite respectful conversation. And then the former first lady and the current first lady spoke yesterday as well. So you can tell there's been a different tone. And then from Trump himself, Mark, he said essentially his 20-page speech they already had written for Thursday, completely shredded. And there are indications from inside the Trump campaign and now from Trump himself that there is, in fact, going to be, and this is going to be the truest test of all.
Oh, I just lost Gary. This is going to be the truest test of all. That's a cliffhanger for sure. I think what he's going to say, and this will be fun when we get him back to find out if this is true. I think what he's going to say is a call for unity, which would be such a bizarre off-brand thing for Trump to call for. I mean, he's all about, Trump is about demonizing the Democrats and the blue states and the blue cities and the liberals. And I mean, it is so, to call it edgy is to be polite. I mean, he's really just, he's an us versus them guy. And the them is the blue state, blue governors, blue senators and Congress people who have weaponized everything to go after your leader, Trump. So if Gary is about to say Trump is going to try to strike a conciliatory note and call for unity, that would astound me. It would also, I think, be effective and then be a total surprise. But as I say, it ain't who he is. I mean, it's definitely off-brand, but if we can get Gary back, we'll ask him about that, and about the VP race, which is coming. Go ahead.
He's going to say, speaking of which, I should tell you that there was a bit of breaking news in the vice presidential picks that, according to the Associated Press, Trump has made his pick, and Rubio and Burgum were both told it's not them.
I see. That's the way. Okay.
So that's right. where we're doling it out a little bit at a time. Not this guy. It's not
all
this
right,
guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
You three.
Yeah.
If you'll step those who will be my next vice president, please step forward. Not so fast, Rubio and Burgum. Yeah. Gary, what were you about to say? You were about to say there is talk. He shredded his speech, is what you were saying. Trump has. Right. And now he's going to call for, and then we lost you. Go ahead. What was he going to say?
Yeah, my apologies for that, Mark. Apparently with your stream, when a call comes in, which my phone has been blowing up, of course, the last 48 hours, that was another, I think that was a CBS call coming in. I'm sorry, that's what apparently interrupted the stream. My apologies. Okay. So, yeah, what I was going to say, Mark, is that apparently the tone is going to change. I expect it to change not just Thursday night when the president, the nominee for each party typically gives their acceptance speech, but he's going to be nominating his vice president. He's going to be naming his vice presidential nominee shortly, very shortly today. And then the roll calls will begin first for the president and then the vice president. The vice president will speak on Wednesday night, the president on Thursday night. And I would expect by everything we're hearing, Mark, from his campaign and then alluded to by Trump himself, that he said it's time to unify the country. And to your point, Mark, I mean, because you like me to comment on the politics of it, and this is it. I mean, it would be politically, obviously, incredibly astute and effective to make that the central focus, not an attack on Biden. And of course, the other side's taking the same kind of cues. The Biden team has pulled down its Trump ads this week. There's no campaign events for the sitting president, as there. I don't even know where the Lester Holt interview that was supposed to run today. I don't even know if that's going to happen at this juncture. There hasn't been definitive word to my knowledge about that. So, you know, both sides have, I think, taken a page out of the same playbook, that this is not the time to go back on the attack.
So, following that bouncing ball, if neither side goes on the attack, and if Trump hits a tone of unity, which I was saying is so off-brand for him, but will be politically effective, as you just noted, you end up with a kind of stasis. You know, nothing really changes. And if nothing really changes, it's good for Trump.
Well, you're exactly right, Mark. And it's also good for Biden. Now, why am I saying that? That's totally counterintuitive, Gary. Well, because in you know, the way we live in news cycles of 24 hours max, let's remember that the pressure was building last week for Biden to get out. I mean, day by day, and up to and including his news conference last Thursday night, which I watched and, of course, commented on extensively, there were still immediately following that news conference. The ranking Democratic member of the House Intelligence Committee, didn't matter to him. He came out and said, I am asking the president to step down. And day after day, as you know, Mark, last week, the number of Democrats, including a U.S. Democratic senator, the first one, came out and said, it's time for the president to step aside. So the pressure on Biden kept building last week. And quite ironically, those calls have come to a screeching halt. I mean, there's already word coming out of the Democratic Party itself that the chances now, in light of the events of the weekend and how this is unfolding, the chances now of Biden stepping aside have dropped dramatically.
It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. I mean, it's sort of the law of unintended consequences, but as you say, everything is so linked, and the news cycle, and it's really, it was almost a media jihad alongside a lot of the politicians, high-profile politicians and high-profile donors and actors like George Clooney that were dogged in just talking about it. You know, are you going to step down, sir? It felt like the email thing. You know, it really did. And now, as you say, it's vanished into the ether. Such a great point. So we're hearing J.D. Vance. We're hearing that Rubio and Burgum are being passed over. J.D. Vance, I was saying, is a real flamethrower. You know, he is very good with media. I wonder if you can give me some thoughts. First of all, I'd love to get your take on whether you think it's likely to be him, but if it is him, what that might mean and how you see that ticket coming together.
Right. Just before I get to the VP thing, Mark, I want to put an exclamation point, and you're absolutely right, Mark, again, about that stasis thing. That is the perfect word to describe a presidential campaign where the polls have been stuck slightly in Trump's favor for many, many months. And a new Siena College New York Times poll just released today on Pennsylvania and Virginia showed that indeed Trump, even before this weekend's events, was still holding a 3-point lead in Pennsylvania and only 3 points behind in Virginia, a state that President Biden won by 10 points last time. Yeah. So they wanted to shake up this race. That's what the debate, as you know, 2 weeks ago was supposed to do. It unfortunately for the Biden team went exactly the opposite. It didn't get corrected by his press conference. People were hopeful that maybe things like the Lester Holt interview and so forth were going to do that. But that's why, from Clooney to U.S. senators to members of the House to donors, we're all calling for a change. And by the way, just parenthetically, yes, Kamala Harris was polled in this New York Times Siena College poll as well. She does about 2 points better than Biden in both Virginia and Pennsylvania. Whether that's going to make any difference now in the long run, I think most people are doubting. Now, on to the VP thing. Here's what we know. There's reporting out that there was a major security detail camped outside of J.D. Vance's house this morning, and that they have left with him to go to the airport. So I think right now the handwriting looks like it's on the wall. We'll see. There's nothing formal yet that it's going to be J.D. Vance. Now, why is that significant? Well, he has been, as you point out, Mark, quite effective on the stump, and he's seen as quite an effective communicator and defender of the president and Republican principles, but also its geography. He holds down the Senate seat in Ohio. What now has emerged? Quite ironically, again, given where Saturday's event was, everybody now is agreeing this morning that given the polls, given everything else, Pennsylvania is the linchpin for this election. If Biden-Harris cannot win Pennsylvania, they will almost certainly lose the election. So people are surmising that, media markets, you know how this goes, Mark, they're no respecters of state lines. And so J.D. Vance is well known, especially in Western Pennsylvania, and that could be an additional advantage politically for a Trump-Vance ticket potentially.
Yeah, it's interesting, is so different in type than like a Mike Pence. First of all, temperament is starkly different, right? Pence is sort of the guy you would cast as president if you were casting some, like a cinema story, where you need to cut to the president occasionally. Pence is very much that way. Didn't carried Trump's water, didn't ask a lot of questions, didn't steal the spotlight, might be the thing I would lead with. And Vance is the opposite. I'm not talking about stealing the spotlight, but certainly comfortable in the spotlight. And so to the degree that he wants an aggressive guy on the stump, and you've just pointed out why it could be so useful to Trump. I mean, just in terms of the states in play. Wow, J.D. Vance might be a very strong choice. The last thing I would say, though, and I'd love to get your comment, I mean, he is a guy who was just as unapologetically coarse in his description of Donald Trump prior to then finding God, and now he's all a Trumpy. Don't you think we'll see some of those sound bites replayed?
Oh, certainly you will. But, everybody, including the man in the moon, at some point or other, we've got so much tape on so many people. How about Marco Rubio, for goodness sake? Yeah. I mean, how about that guy as a VP? But there's another important thing, Mark, that we didn't touch on with J.D. Vance, and this has been surfacing just in the last week, and that's the difference in hair color between Pence and Vance. I say that facetiously, but what do I mean? Youthfulness, okay? Youthfulness. Trump himself has been very quietly, but very subtly, making noises in the last week that, age doesn't really matter that much when it comes to it. Why? Because remember, Democrats kept calling for a younger candidate, a more youthful, vigorous candidate, whether it be Harris or somebody else like California's governor or whoever that could fill that role. Vance blunts that significantly, right? I mean, even Burgum is significantly older. So I think that has been another thing that people have not looked at yet. But it's Vance's youthfulness, that will bring down the average age of this ticket if he's the VP significantly.
Well, I really am astounded by the way that things happened over the weekend and that many have rallied around the former president in such a high-profile way. I see Elon Musk coming out almost immediately, endorsing Trump after the shooting, and also pledging a tremendous amount of money to his campaign. It seems as though a lot of institutional money and institutional concerns are now beginning to gravitate toward Trump. I think that might be in large measure, and I guess I'm asking you, because they anticipate that Trump may win this.
Oh, Mark, I think you're exactly right. I mean, you can talk about ideology, you can talk about all kinds of things, political leanings, but the big money, as you say, the institutional money, these players, this is not their first rodeo. They want to be with the winner. They want to be with the one who's going to be appointing cabinet secretaries and, department deputy directors who are going to make big decisions on regulations and other things. I mean, that's just the reality of it. People on both sides are well aware of this. There's also another figure whose name hasn't come up that I think, two, they're going to be very significant this week, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Neither one of them initially were going to be invited to the convention, let alone speak at it. Now both are coming. Both will speak. That, too, especially Haley, obviously. And, of course, last week she released her delegates. and said, I'd like you to go ahead and, put out your vote for the former president. Those two voices, along with Trump, along with Vance, to me, are going to be the big four that we're going to be watching this week. And if they come out in a unified fashion and have this sense of we need to come together, not just as a party, but as a nation, that's going to change the tone of this election significantly.
I agree. Very powerful message. Gary Dietrich from CBS Television and iHeart Radio. Love our time together. Thank you, pal. You always put things in a great framework. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mark. Have a great show today.
All right, Gary Dietrich. Talk next week. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. I'll get into some more politics. I've got other stuff for you. I was kind of struck by what happened over the weekend. Did people see, in addition to the horrible political violence, Shannon Doherty passed away, the star of 90210.
53.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so tragic. 53 years old.
She had
cancer. She was fighting cancer for a long time, I guess.
She had breast cancer that spread to her, I think, bones and brain. Yeah.
So sad. 90210 was coming up right as I was coming up. I left the Bay Area, then came to Los Angeles. And the 90210 thing was happening right as I was beginning my thing, trying to get my career to track in Los Angeles and different stuff. And I feel kind of connected to the 90210 and the Melrose Place kids. Mm-hmm. And they were kids at the time. And the guy who created 90210 was my next door neighbor. I didn't know he was until like one day I realized, oh my God, that's the next door neighbor. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I have this weird connection to those kids. I became friends with a few of them. And it's really sad when somebody 53 passes away, and she really had such a wonderful presence, and then to have life jerked from you so young, I think is just a supreme tragedy. On the other end of the extreme, Ruth Westheimer, Dr. Ruth, she passed away.
She was so lovable.
96 years old.
Yeah.
A leading advocate of sexual education for decades. She had that distinctive German accent. She was a Holocaust child, right? She was, I think, on that, what do they call that? The Kinder transport, where they just put kids on a train to get them out of this Nazi regime, and they had to hope that she was going to be okay. She was born in Germany in 1928. When she was 10, on the eve of World War II, Dr. Ruth Westheimer was sent to Switzerland by her parents. Here it is. Her mother and father were killed during the Holocaust.
Oh, no.
And she has said she believed they were killed at Auschwitz. As a teenager, she lived in Jerusalem and trained as a sniper with the Haganah, which is a controversial Zionist military group, which later became part of the Israeli Defense Forces. So she was a trained sniper.
Dr. Ruth was a sniper?
In her 20s, she studied in Paris and then immigrated to New York City, where she attended graduate school. Eventually, she got a degree at Columbia University. She was a member of the Museum of Jewish Heritage and regularly funded and attended events related to Holocaust remembrance. Well, I can only imagine when your family perishes that way under the Holocaust and Nazi regime. To allow the joy to come front and center in your life, you also have to feel your emotions, even the sad ones, she wrote in her book in 2015. Her book was called, and is called, it's still available obviously, The Doctor Is In, Dr. Ruth on Love, Life, and Joie de Vivre. You have to mourn, let the tears pour out. If you bottle the sadness in, the joy gets bottled right along with it, she says. She was delightful. I had her on with me in Los Angeles several times. She was, there's a picture somewhere of myself and Dr. Ruth. I should, Find it. It's an old school picture. It's in a frame somewhere in this studio. But she was quite an impactful person in the culture, in the media, and, of course, her story is heartbreaking.
She had this infectious personality. She's opened her mouth or she walked into a room and you just kind of felt joy.
Yeah, I agree with that. She had that. And, of course, her appearances on Letterman's show really launched her. She became, quite well known as a result of her appearances on talk shows. And I feel like Letterman's show was one of the familiar platforms that you found her on. Richard Simmons passed away as well. Yeah. He was 76. He was being treated for basal cell carcinoma, which first appeared as a strange-looking bump under his eye, they say. Dominant incarnation of a long-standing figure from American pop culture. He said, quote, "I think I'm just a good example of a chubby, fat, unhappy kid who lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, and dreamed, and now all my dreams are coming true." The TV fitness act that he did would normally seem to demand a balance between masculinity and theatrics. That was not what he was about. He transformed exercise and healthy eating into wild cross-dressing skits, sequin tank tops, teeny-weeny short shorts. And he was another one who'd go on the talk shows unapologetically, with his legs greased up with that tan stuff. Look at him on with Letterman. He had a TV show, too. In 1980, it went into national syndication. He became a force on daytime television in the 80s. And he had a bunch of products that he had that Sweat Into the Oldies that was on VHS tape back in the day and then DVD. He appeared as himself on General Hospital and talk shows, the Dr. Oz show, on Ellen, etc. He was a part of the culture,
I was reading a story about him over the weekend. They say that he felt dizzy and his housekeeper urged him to go see a doctor, that he fell in his bathroom and didn't want to seek medical treatment, said he wanted to spend his birthday at home. And then she came back the next morning and found him basically dead by the side of his bed. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Possible head injury or some type of medical issue that came after the fall.
Curiosity about Simmons' personal life increased after February 15, 2014, they say, when he unexpectedly did not show up to his teaching a class. And then he dropped out of public life after that completely. In 2017, he was the subject of, quote, Missing Richard Simmons, which became the most downloaded podcast on iTunes. It discussed theories, some of them outlandish, about what had happened to him. And then, just because that was in the zeitgeist, it kind of suggested something's wrong with the guy, right? In any case, Richard Simmons was a real part of kind of the modern American culture of weight loss and exercise and also just show business, He passes away at 76. That was the other very high-profile passing over the weekend. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have a couple of things to pass on to you. These are program notes, so I would put them in the category of
major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show.
All right.
A major announcement.
I'd consider it maybe a major announcement. I don't know. I think it's pretty major. Pat Thurston will be here tomorrow. She is a former colleague, and we love our Pat Thurston, and that's an important program note. David K. Johnston will be here tomorrow. Yeah. And I'm trying to get, we haven't booked him yet, one of the great journalists, when it comes to covering the vote and the suppression of the vote, he is coming on this week too, Greg Palast. So we just have to work out exactly when, because he's already said he'll come on. So I'm looking forward to that. Pick the person you're looking forward to seeing. Those aren't the only guests, but those I think are 3 high-profile guests. So I wanted to pass them on to you. Which is, yes, it has been. Yes. It has been. That was I guess that was a major announcement. I want to quickly check on comments before I get to emails, which I will do. Jason goes after me for the way I've characterized it. You don't think that that's true, Jason? The modern American culture of weight loss? What? LOL, I don't see it. You don't? I just told you his DVDs, his meal plans, they sold immensely, bigly. So you may not like him. He may not, but I'm just saying, I think he was vaulted into American culture in a very strong way on the back of concerns about weight loss and exercise. I mean, again, it was, so.
Seemed to be one of the first people, him, Jane Fonda, and Joni Greggins, the first that I remember anyway, and I guess Jack LaLanne would be in that category of people who came out and just tried to get you to move, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a movement prior, but you're right. Mm-hmm. And the advent of videos and things like that really helped. Prior to that, it was those people who were live on, in the morning, and they would, come on, everybody, let's that was weirdly the only way really to communicate in a real-time way, because there was just no distribution that was effective when it came to tapes and DVDs. He and Jane Fonda and others around that time, Joni Greggins and others, Bodies by Jake, there are a bunch of them. There's that guy who has that thing, he had the ponytail. I mean, the infomercial...
Suzanne Summers, Thigh Master.
Thank you. DVDs and the distribution of those VHS tapes, that changed everything.
I had a Thigh Master, did nothing for the thighs.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're excited to buy, and then in the end it doesn't. It's pretty clear that if Trump wins the election, America will turn into a Christian theocracy. I certainly think he'll turn the keys to the car over to Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, Leonard Leo, and many others who could make that turn. So, Attila, I don't disagree. Anything else I had... Vance blamed Biden for the shooting before he knew anything in capital letters about the actual shooting. That's, quote, exactly, and that's in capital letters, what Trump wants in a VP, a propagandist. Thank you, Jose. That's the comment from Jose. And I guess that's what I was saying, that J.D. Vance is a flamethrower. He will shoot first, if you'll pardon the expression, and ask questions later. I mean, he really is that guy. And he's super effective. I mean, you're about to see it. He is super effective, J.D. Vance. Tom Gunn, my favorite gun is a Tom gun. How about a big shout out for a 20?
Big shout out.
And I'm going to give you a thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Rather like that. Thank you, Tom Gunn, Gunn. Right on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Eric says Trump doesn't need Pence anymore. He's got the Christian nationalists eating out of his palm now. Yes, that's true that Pence's presence was elevated by his connection to the Christian right. So I actually like that take, Eric. I think that that's a decent take. Get Pat Thurston on immediately. She's ex-Secret Service, or she's coming on tomorrow, Phineas. So, yeah, thank you. We'll do that.
I have to tell you something, and I don't know how much stock you put in this publication. It's The Hill.
Uh-huh. And
they are saying on The Hill that Trump has picked J.D. Vance for the vice president slot.
Yeah, well, it seems as though he has. I mean, if the security detail took him from something, told Rubio and Burgum that they're not it.
So now CNN Politics is saying it too. The Hill is saying that it's J.D. Vance, that he's been chosen.
Yeah. So it looks like it's J.D. Vance, and again, you'll get all that beautiful heat that J.D. Vance throws. He throws insane heat. He's Trumpian in his rhetoric. As I say, he used to be an anti-Trumper. I mean, if you actually look at J.D. Vance's history, Hillbilly Elegy, and all of his appeal is powerful. And he used to be a real strong voice against Trump. Now, obviously, he has seen the errors of his ways, and now he realizes that Trump is the one true hope for America and for a divine future in the promised land. But before that, and you're going to see those quotes too, and those videos, he was unapologetic about who Trump was. On
he's
document,
39.
What?
He's 39, so he's young. Former Marine.
Exactly.
And yeah, he they say has a history of poverty, but yet graduated from Yale Law School. So he offers insights on the working class, economic insecurity, all of these things he brings to the table.
Well, that's what Hillbilly Elegy was. That's why I mentioned it. So he's really, yes, he's quite effective. I think, representing that both from his personal experience and just making the point generally with some credibility. Vance blames poor people for their problems, says Dee Barker. Yeah. There's something I was going to put. This is on the documents. Delwood Kelp says, bathroom is actually secure and safe. What sensible spy would ever look there for top secret documents? Right? Yes. In fact, I would get that memo out to the National Security Administration, Delwood. They should start hiding things in bathrooms because that is really the most secure place because that's where spies don't look. Am I right? Yeah. So let's get those secret documents into bathrooms that are sure. People aren't going to look in the boxes. They're going to do their business, wash their hands, and leave. You're absolutely right, Delwood. Gosh.
If they look in the medicine cabinet, they're looking in the boxes.
Yeah, Harry Magnan says, please, enough already. You're driving me to the Red Jack.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Harry Magnan and the Red Jack Saloon in San Francisco, one of our favorite, maybe our favorite watering hole in San Francisco. And Louise says, J.D. Vance has been selected by NBC as the new Joseph Goebbels. Yeah. He will sling the propaganda. No question about it. So, wash their hands? Don't think so. Yeah, I just threw that in to be polite. That's the story on some comments, and that's the story on, as we know it, the likely Trump pick, J.D. Vance. And as Gary Dietrich was just saying, and I was sort of suggesting as well, that this note of unity that Trump is going to strike is going to be interesting because it's not typically the note he strikes. It's their problem. Look what they're doing. I mean, look at what happened post-Pelosi attack. Nancy Pelosi's husband is attacked with a hammer by an intruder, and he's mocked by the right. And it doesn't end there. There is any degree of mockery that they have offered toward political violence, and yet they're now pivoting and talking about the fact that, well, it's the left that has caused all this. All right. So cut to this week at the Republican National Convention, where they may, at least publicly, strike a tone of unity and a sense that they've moderated a bit. You've already seen Trump tiptoe away from Project 2025, even though we know that Project 2025, the architects of it, the authors of it, were overwhelmingly people in his administration with connections to Trump. It is the plan for Trump. And yet he claims, I don't know anything about it, and I don't like it, which is an odd line anyway. Well, what is it? You don't know anything about it, or you don't like it? So this will be a very interesting week, and it's changed things. I think Gary was smart to point out the one positive way that it's changed things for Biden, if you're a Biden person. And let me see this. I can't quite make it out.
No contendo for a couple bucks, saying all that licking, and 45 still ignored you.
Yeah. What was that? Must be related to somebody who was kissing his ass, either Burgum or Rubio, and who didn't make the cut. Yeah. What I was going to say is that it's interesting to me that Gary points out the positive for Biden as a result of this attempt on Trump's life. And again, I don't view it as a positive in general, but if you're a Biden fan or if you're in the Biden camp, the talk of him being removed from the ticket has just evaporated. It's just over. You don't hear it. And now the challenge will be to consolidate all of those people who are straying from Biden support and try to consolidate them again the way the Republicans have. Look at how, as was noted, you've got Nikki Haley. I mean, this is someone, Nikki Haley was saying Trump doesn't have it to be president anymore. He should never be near the White House. Now she'll be speaking at the convention. Ron DeSantis, who again said, love Trump, but he doesn't have it anymore. He's now about other things. I can bring about the Trumpian revolution. This is what Rubio was saying. Not Rubio, DeSantis. Now both DeSantis and Nikki Haley are going to speak at the convention. So the kind of solidarity, the kind of unity that's being shown by the GOP just in time for their convention, the Democrats are going to have to find it. They're going to have to get George Clooney back in the camp. They're going to have to get those guys who do that podcast. They used to be Obama speechwriters or whatever. They're going to have to get them back in the camp. They're going to have to get some of these people who are the tastemakers on the Democratic side. They're going to have to get them back on board. Otherwise, you're going nowhere, guys. I think it's still an uphill climb. I don't think the Democrats will do well. And it breaks my heart because I think the loss of reproductive freedoms, the brutality with which we are now viewing the future, I really think the rise of this nationalist movement underpinned by theology and even a white nationalism, it's scary. That said, the Democrats have to get their act together. And the days of scrambling, I'm afraid, they may be past. I'll be curious to know what David K. Johnston thinks tomorrow. We'll talk to him about it. So, Kim's news, and then I've got something that's not...
The Mark Thompson Show.
That's not political. And I have a piece of video that I still have to get to. So we've got a lot still to do. By the way, I have a lawn disorder, which I will do after Kim's news, and it involves Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
That's right. And you will enjoy it because it involves Marjorie Taylor Greene, but it also involves something that a lot of legislators do, and it's scandalous. But we'll get to that as we continue. Smash the like button like a boss. Throw us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing. Kim's news, and then, as I say, MTG and more. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and it is true, former President Trump has selected Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate. It'll be Trump-Vance 2024.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
Trump's announcement on his Truth social account comes just after his assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. Vance was elected to the Senate in 2022 and represents a key swing state in the 2024 race. So, J.D. Vance, now the nominee to become the vice president of the United States, apparently. Speaking of the Republican National Convention, it is taking place under heavy security in Milwaukee. Been dramatically ramped up security following the assassination attempt on former President Trump during a weekend campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Republicans are gathering this week to nominate Donald Trump for the presidency. A roll call by delegates from each state preceded the official nomination, so that is how it will go. Former President Trump is applauding the dismissal of his federal classified documents case. Here they are again in the bathroom. Trump was accused by the feds of taking classified documents from the White House after he left office and illegally storing them in Mar-a-Lago. Judge Eileen Cannon ruled the appointment of the special counsel Jack Smith violated the Constitution. Trump posted, "As we move forward in uniting our nation after the horrific events on Saturday, this dismissal should be followed quickly by the dismissal of all of the witch hunts," is what he said.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, jury deliberations continue in New Jersey. Senator Bob Menendez's federal corruption trial. New York jury got the case late on Friday, the jury trying to decide whether the veteran Democrat used his office and political power to help businessmen in exchange for receiving cash and gold bars. His defense attorney says, hey, those were gifts, all right? They blame Menendez's wife for keeping the senator in the dark regarding financial matters.
Yeah. There's always somebody else to blame.
The wife. Always, it seems that the wife is the scapegoat lately.
Yeah. I mean, what are wives for?
The attorney for the armorer on the set of the movie Rust is filing a motion for her release from jail, just hours after the judge in New Mexico threw out the case against Alec Baldwin on Friday. The lawyer for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed says she should be released on the same grounds. Both Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed were charged with involuntary manslaughter in connection with the death in 2021 of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on that movie set. There are lots of Houston area residents still hot and in the dark after Hurricane Beryl slammed into Texas last week. As of last check, more than 290,000 customers are still without power. The power has been restored to about 1.9 million people, 85% of those who were affected. But the utility is saying it could take until Friday for some areas there to be restored. And now there's a lawsuit being filed as to why it's taking so long. So, yikes. The University of California Board of Regents has issued a statement about protest encampments on UC campuses. The regents said protests are allowed, encampments not allowed. They went on to say the UC campuses need to consistently follow the rules of enforcement to make sure encampments are not allowed on campuses. The policy clarification comes after months of pro-Palestinian protests and several encampments being set up on UC campuses, including UCLA, where there was vandalism, graffiti, buildings on buildings and walkways as well. In some cases, students and staff were also blocked from getting to their classrooms. There's another celebrity death. TV, film, and stage actor James Sikking has died. He had various roles in TV shows like Doogie Howser, MD, Hill Street Blues, which he won an Emmy for that show in 1984. His publicist says Sikking died over the weekend of complications from dementia. He was born in Los Angeles, graduated from UCLA in 1959. He was 90 years old, Mr. Sikking.
Oh, my God. I'm trying to picture what he looked like. Do you have, how does he spell his name?
Sikking.
Sikking.
He was.
Can we rally a picture of him?
Yeah, I think he was Doogie Howser's dad.
Oh, I recognize him. Mm-hmm. Tony, can you hustle a picture of James Sikking? Sikk. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
He was everybody's dad and everything.
Right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
he was in Hill Street Blues, sure.
So he was 90 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, and he passed away. God, we lost a lot of celebrities all at once, it seems like.
Yeah, he was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Columbo, Starsky and Hush, MASH. I'm looking at all these shows he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's really great. He, well, anyway, I'm glad he had a long life, but always sad when somebody passes away.
He's one of those people that I would know his face right away, even if I didn't know his name.
By the early 80s, he had established quite the track record for portraying law enforcement and authority figures, they say. Dynamic NBC police procedural Hill Street Blues, he leaned into this type even more from 81 to 87. Sicking started as Lieutenant Howard Hunter, a Vietnam War veteran who was the head of an emergency action team. This is on Hill Street Blues. The lieutenant's uptight demeanor was often played for laughs, but was rooted in Sicking's own experience with a drill instructor when he was a student at UCLA in the late 50s. The drill instructor looked like he had steel for hair, and his uniform had so much starch in it, he said, you knew it would sit in the corner when he took it off in the barracks. Anyway, thank you. Didn't know that. And and he's a super recognizable actor. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
A little bit of business news. Google reportedly in talks to make its largest acquisition to date. According to the Wall Street Journal, the search giant plans to spend $23 billion to buy cloud security startup Wiz. Founded in 2020, most recently valued at $12 billion, Wiz has been considering an IPO. Apple's stock price has been upgraded significantly. Analysts at Morgan Stanley call the company a top pick and raised the price target from $216 to $273. The announcement comes ahead of Apple's expected launch of the iPhone 16 and the recent introduction of Apple Intelligence. And NVIDIA is facing an antitrust investigation in France. According to the French Competition Authority, who spoke with Reuters, the probe is focused on alleged anti-competitive practices. Regulators say the chipmaker will face charges if the investigation warrants them. So.
Wow. So finally some rain on the NVIDIA parade.
I guess so. Yikes.
But, yeah.
There's a grass fire in King City. You know, King City is kind of Monterey County, but a little past the Monterey Bay Area. They've got a grass fire in King City that filled the area with thick black smoke over the weekend. Looks like it's finally out, but the grass fire spread to some pallets, some wooden pallets, and quite a mess in King City over the weekend. So, yeah, it was not a good scene.
King City's a good name for a place, I think.
You know, King City is known for the CHP speed trap. It's where they'll catch you in between the Bay Area and Los Angeles. You got to slow it down.
Well, that would be a bad name, like Speed Trap City.
Speed Trap City, yeah. It's just a little too obvious. No, that's not going to work out.
King City works better.
No. High-intensity interval exercise can boost cognitive function in older adults. I don't know if they want you to get out there and lose your breath or what. Researchers at the University of Queensland found the benefits can last up to 5 years. The high-intensity exercise looked at in the study involved running on a treadmill at near maximum exertion. The researchers looked at healthy adults between 65 and 85 years old. They want you to be 85 and running at maximum exertion?
If you want to get to 85, you need to start it when you're 65, apparently. And you know, that I actually read that study because from Dr. Emil Schockhausen. The high interval. Yeah.
Emil Schockhausen.
The third. Yeah.
Run till you feel like you're dead and you'll live longer.
I think you're supposed to stress your body to the max.
No.
I have a kind of the opposite, edibles and munching out on vegan chicken fingers. That doesn't really seem to be working for me.
No.
But I'm loving life. I really am.
Lastly, officials at Yellowstone National Park had to fish a car out of a thermal geyser on Friday. The Park Services said in a press release that a car with 5 people inside inadvertently left the roadway and veered right into the semi-centennial geyser. This happened last Thursday morning. All 5 were able to exit the car and get out of the 105-degree geyser with non-life-threatening injuries. 1 day later, authorities closed the nearby road and lifted the car out of 9 feet of water. The cause of the accident remains under investigation. That's an accident for you. Yeah.
Yikes. That is brutal.
Don't want to end up in the thermal geyser. No,
that's bad.
And shouldn't there be a guardrail? I don't know.
There should be a guardrail in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't know either. This report
there should be a guardrail.
Sponsored by you. This is a crowd-funded show. We rely on you to help us keep it rolling. Find us at The Mark Thompson Show. .com, themarkthompsonshow.com. That's our website. The Patreon link is there. The PayPal link is there. Really the bread and butter of this show. So check it out. And please help us keep this show going. Also, the Super Chat, Super Stickers are live and open here on YouTube. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
There's never been anything like this.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Oh my God.
I know.
100% effective. How about that?
Can you let him finish, sir?
There is no defense for my conduct.
Seriously, what the
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
Put that coffee down.
Smash it with your iron rod.
seriously, what the
Right on, everybody. Right on. Hey, I want to welcome, I don't know if I did welcome her already, but I want to welcome her if I haven't. And even if I have, I want to welcome her again. She is our newest Patreon member, the community that really supports us every month, giving us everything from $5 to $100 a month. I mean, this is really a group of people who see, hey, I like this show. I want to make sure they make payroll every month, and so I will help them in every way I can. And Patreon is the way we do it. There is a live link under all of our videos, under this that you're watching right now, and under all the other videos. And click through to Patreon and become like Susan. And Susan, welcome at the $20 a month level. Big shout out. And I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. She is, I'm always weird. I want to give the last name, and then I'm always like, I don't want to violate any privacy. You know what I mean? These days, so tricky. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm not gonna. But Susan S., you know who you are. And your name will be added to all the names at the end of the show. Tony will do the new list on August 1st. So at the beginning of the new month, he'll add that. It's actually a real time-consuming thing, and he does it
takes
regularly.
Forever. There's got to be an easier way, but I don't know.
Yeah. We pay Tony by the hour, and I see how many hours it takes, and I'm kind of, it bums me out. I need a bunch of contributions just to pay for him updating the contributions. So
it's a good problem to have. It's a lot of names. Thank you, all of you.
It's a good thing.
Let's talk about something important.
All right. Well, I was just talking about the Patreon and PayPal. Those are the two ways to reach us. I do want to mention something. It's not really political, guys, but it is important, I think.
The Mark Thompson Show.
To our friends in Los Angeles, I know you Southern Californians, there is word in L.A. particularly, but all over California. In fact, it started this phenomenon in the Bay Area and Northern California, California hitting very high COVID levels. Wastewater jumping significantly in the returns and testing that they've done. The summer bump on COVID numbers is here. National virus measurements in sewage reached high levels for the first time this summer. This is according to the CDC. COVID-19 growing or probably growing in 44 states and the nation's capital. As for California, we have very high coronavirus levels in wastewater. This is for the week ending July 6th.
Yeah, it's a problem.
We were one of 7 states in this category. The others are Arkansas, Florida, Maryland, Nevada, Oregon, and Texas. 19 other states covering every region of the country have high coronavirus levels in sewage. Significantly higher than last summer, if you're looking for a reference. And in Northern California, 2 of the largest sewer sheds covering San Jose and Palo Alto in Santa Clara County, that's the area's most populous county in the Bay Area, reporting high levels of the virus in wastewater. So at the rate at which COVID tests are coming back with positive results in California, we're almost at last summer's peak. That's in positive testing. And when you add the wastewater, we're higher than we were just a year ago. So this is of concern, and we will continue to keep you posted. It's maybe early to forecast the coming season, they're saying, but COVID is definitely here and still a part of our lives. Now, how about a little something in
The Mark Thompson Show.
I almost think it's a law and disorder thing. It really is close to being a law and disorder. Kind of falls into a conflict of interest category, so I think, Tony, I like it. Let's do some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
The world of Marjorie Taylor Greene, filled with things that have very little to do with governing, very little to do with some kind of governing philosophy, more to do with building her brand and making it rich. And so in the second category, you'll find this story. Congressperson Marjorie Taylor Greene's latest stock splurge may pose a second conflict of interest. She has invested in cybersecurity tech despite the fact that she's serving on a House subcommittee dedicated to oversight and accountability within the technology industry.
Oops.
She made 6 purchases of CrowdStrike Holdings. Those total between $6,000 and $90,000. She made those 6 purchases on June 24th. CrowdStrike, of course, is helping the Department of Defense manage their cyber security operations. So that could inappropriately link Marjorie Taylor Greene to that contract. And purchasing stocks from a cybersecurity company could potentially cause a conflict of interest because of her position on the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability. And she specifically works on accountability and oversight on the subcommittee on cybersecurity. Okay, so she is directly involved with the organization that she's supposedly buying into. This is at least the second time this year that she has been tied to technology trades that pose questions of conflicts of interest. She was invested up to $15,000, according to documents, that is to say, disclosure documents she needs to file, in tech Goliath Microsoft back in May. She also purchased up to $15,000 of Qualcomm stock, which is a federal defense contractor again. This while she was serving on the Homeland Security Committee and the Subcommittee on Border Security and Enforcement. Her latest purchase also includes the alt. Is it? What are they? It's it's Lululemon. It's the leisure wear stuff, right?
Lululemon.
Lululemon, sorry, yeah. What did I say, Lululemon? Yeah.
That sounds very French and fancy.
Yeah, Lululemon. Thank you. It's Lululemon. Well, Lululemon, isn't it like yoga stuff? And what's that?
Lululemon.
Lululemon?
Yeah.
Well, what is Lululemon? Lululemon is like yoga stuff and leisure wear.
Yeah, it's
right?
They call it athleisure, right? So
athleisure.
It's very $100 leggings is what they sell there. $100 leggings, tennis skirts, jogging jackets.
Anyway, she bought that too. A bipartisan group of senators introduced the Ethics Act, as you're aware, last week, to ban members of Congress and their partners and dependents from trading individual stocks. There also have been similar efforts to add teeth to restrictions on congressional stock trading. They have repeatedly failed those efforts. And I will also remind you that if you're a journalist working at CNBC, let's say, or you're working at the Washington Post or New York Times and you're writing about business, they make you divest from any holdings, or you have to put everything in a blind trust. But when you're a congressperson, you don't have to. And you can do as Marjorie Taylor Greene has. You can invest in the very companies that you're there to oversee to regulate.
Because didn't they just pass a law?
No, they introduced the law, as I said, the Ethics Act.
Yeah.
That was introduced last week, but it has not passed. In fact, I think
So she's got to buy all of her stock before it goes through. So you see,
I don't think it will go through, but you're right. She, she ain't slowing down.
Mm-mm.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, House Oversight Chair James Comer launching a new investigation into the Biden administration, because that's what they do. They are looking now at a shadow government, they say, that's being handled by 3 Biden staffers. Comer has subpoenaed 3 White House staffers: Jill Biden aide Anthony Bernal, Deputy Chief Annie Tomasini, and Senior Advisor Ashley Williams. Comer wants them to testify before his committee. He claims that these 3 aides are the ones that are really running the country as a triumvirate shadow government. I mean, these guys just don't pass legislation anymore. They don't worry about the things that they say they're going to worry about. Instead, he's trying to build a scandal around this. And he says that he expects Donald Trump's next attorney general to prosecute these people criminally, along with Hunter Biden, Merrick Garland, and other members of the Biden administration. So this is the rancor that continues to populate a lot of the talk on the right. And Comer is just he's a henchman for these hatchet jobs that they're doing over and over. And so that's the latest, that it's a shadow government that has been running the country and will be running the country. Kim had the story, but I wanted to reiterate the fact that Costco, one of the most exclusive clubs you can be a part of as an American, the hot dogs are still $1.50, but the membership, they're raising the fees from $5 to $65. That'll be in the U.S. and Canada. So don't think you can go to Canada and get a better deal. You can't.
Wait, what are the fees?
$65 a year.
Okay, up from what, $60?
They're raising it by $5. I think it's $60 a year now. I'm sorry. Right. And if I said from $5, they're raising it by $5. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So it's going to cost you $65 a year in the U.S. and Canada. First time in 7 years that they've raised their membership fees. But there's also the executive membership. That's going up also by $10 to $130 a year. But you'll be able to win award points and gain all of that stuff.
You get to go in early if you have the executive membership.
Oh.
We had it for 1 year, and you could go in. I think they open it either an hour or a half an hour early. And on days when like everyone and their brother is going to Costco, it's really great because you go in and there's not that many people there. But it wasn't sustainable, that price.
Yeah. It's I pay premiums to avoid crowds.
Yeah,
I really do.
Well, then you want the executive membership.
Yeah, so I think I'm an executive membership. But anyway, this is happening at the same time as that a lot of the live streaming companies where we are streaming shows when we're not at Costco, they're raising their prices also. So can't get a break right now. I know Donald Trump will make it all better, right? Yeah, that's going to be a top priority. First, we're going to indict everybody, and we're going to go after all my political enemies. And then we're going to get that cost of membership at Costco and at Netflix. We'll get that down. Now, finally, in the world of Costco and Target, I think Kim may have mentioned this to you in a newscast, but I wanted to, again, underscore it. No more personal checks at Target.
That's it.
Now, the good news is you don't need to wait in line behind somebody who's writing a personal check. That's the really good news. No personal checks from shoppers. That, as of today, it is done.
Good day, sir. Moving,
exactly.
Do you write checks anymore even?
No. They want to go cashless, of course. The governments of the world, so they can control us. But it is indeed the case now that fewer and fewer people are writing checks.
Yeah.
You do find it occasionally at the supermarket, but you won't find it at Target any longer. That is Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Josh Hawley, the Republican senator, ridiculed by his own constituents. Why would that be? Josh Hawley, he was the guy with the fist on J6, and everybody knows Josh Hawley, right? He is big on, I'd suggest, sort of the alt-right, Christian nationalism. In fact, it's about Christian nationalism that this story gets going. He was advocating openly for Christian nationalism this past week. He made this claim at a gala hosted by the Public Affairs Institute National Conservative Conference in Washington. So you figure he's kind of playing to the room a little bit. He's emboldened by the room. They're all conservative. There are a lot of Christians there. Some will say, he said, I'm calling America a Christian nation. And so I am. Some will say I'm advocating Christian nationalism. And so I do, he said. Christian nationalism has been dubbed the single biggest threat to religious freedom in the U.S. because of its condemnation in part of the LGBTQ community, links to neo-Nazis. So Hawley's remark caught the eye of his Missouri constituents. Some went on to Reddit last week with the question, what do you call Josh Hawley? Reddit users were quick to flood the Reddit feed with accusations of political hypocrisy, self-serving rather than Christian values. More than 400 responses in about 3 hours.
So he's the guy that wants the 10 Commandments in my kid's classroom, public classroom. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what he wants.
Yeah. I mean, that's
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the least of it. Yeah. Right. I met him at an industry event right after he was elected the first time, wrote someone on this Reddit post. He told us he believed in our cause and would fight to support us, then voted against our bill just a few weeks later. The man says whatever people in front of him want to hear and then does the opposite when voting in the Senate, somebody else said. I'm genuinely shocked more people aren't outraged at the BS that he pulls. The lawmaker also got this: Christo-fascist traitor, Virginian con artist, sycophantic fascist coward. So the world of Reddit took him down. And they were Missouri Reddit participants, so that suggests that they are on some level his constituents, right? It's not the first time that he's gone after something that's ticked off his constituents. He was registered to vote at his sister's place in Missouri. The address was his sister's. He had a $1.3 million house in Northern Virginia, and that's really where he likely resided full time, right?
No.
That's right outside of Washington, D.C., and that's probably where he lives, right?
I don't think you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But again, he's gotten away with it for now. So, I believe he went to Yale. He's a smart guy, but he's definitely a fundamentalist, and this Christian nationalism informs a lot of what he says and what he does these days, and so that's the latest on Josh Hawley. He might have said the quiet part out loud one too many times for his own constituents. You know?
The Mark Thompson Show.
The largest creature in the world has been spotted off the coast of Massachusetts for the first time in 20 years.
Was that the gray whale? Blue whale? What is that?
It's a gray whale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Seen off of Nantucket. This is an extraordinary thing, though, because the blue whale is the largest animal in the world, an uncommon sight for whale watchers around Massachusetts. And it was the first sighting in that area in more than 20 years.
I love whales.
It's a blue whale, though, right? Not a gray whale. Or is it a gray whale that's a blue whale because that's part of the blue whale?
No.
No. It's a blue whale.
I don't know. I'm not looking at the story. What do you got?
The blue whale has been around the area for at least 2 days.
Okay.
The marine mammal was first spotted in Nova Scotia before it's made its way to Rye, New Hampshire, before it was eventually seen off Cape Ann and Newburyport. Probably the most striking moment in the video is when the blue whale exhaled a misty breath from its blowhole. There it is. We're showing it to you now. When blue whales are exhaling, they are so large and exhale with such powerful force that their blow can be 30 feet high.
Whoa.
There it is. The whale-watching experts concluding that the marine mammal was almost as long as their 115-foot boat.
Yeah, it's the blue whale that's the largest animal of all time. Yeah. 198 U.S. tons they can reach, a length of 98 feet long. Their tongues alone can weigh as much as an elephant. Their tongues can weigh as much as an elephant, and their hearts can weigh as much as a car. They survive by eating a diet rich in tiny plankton.
Yeah, you just have to hope that all that plastic and crap in the ocean, it doesn't get in his way. It's pretty, or her way. Mm-hmm. The blue whale replica, full-size replica, used to hang, I think it still does, in the Museum of Natural History at the Smithsonian in Washington. And when I was a kid, I walked in there, and there is this life-size replica of the blue whale, and it's hanging off of the ceiling, and it's so immense that, of course, it takes up the entire hall. The exhibit. It was spectacular. It was kind of, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It was it drew you in, like you just. It was the wonderment of nature, and the massive size of this blue whale was something I'll never forget as a kid. So, but there it is, spotted. Oh, there. Thank you, Tony. Wow.
Look at that.
That's it at the Museum of Natural History. Yeah. Nice job, Tony, to rally.
Thanks,
that.
Tony.
Yeah. Anyway, the blue whale back in business for the first time in 20 years. off the coast of New England. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Pretty amazing. As we wrap up today, I think I've shared with you my takes on both this political violence and how it's going to change things in America for a while, the politics. To be fair, who doesn't need a little light reading in the bathroom? I think Reader's Digest just had a print, says Tex Stan. Yeah, on the documents.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Between Delwood and Tex, it's true. You can put that stuff in the bathroom and, pick up a national security document. Yeah. I want to make sure I got to everything I needed to get to today. I thought we got to everything we needed to on the political violence over the weekend, how things changed. We gave you the J.D. Vance story. Looks like he's going to be the vice presidential nominee for top of ticket with Donald Trump. And Gary Dietrich, I thought, broke things down nicely. And now the challenge really comes to the Democrats to try to pull something together in the face of what is seeming to be a flow of information and of decision-making that favors the Republicans. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell was greeted with loud boos during the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Did you have that story, or I've just seen it?
I saw it after my news, so I put it in there for you. But the crowd booed McConnell. He was speaking for the state of Kentucky during the roll call that they do there, Yeah. And he was making Trump's nomination official from Kentucky. And he and McConnell and Trump have had kind of this ongoing feud a bit. And McConnell is going to step down as the party's leader in the Senate at the end of the year. And I guess the crowd is so pro-Trump that when McConnell steps to the mic, he gets booed.
Wow. It really is the cult of the party around one person, and that's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So don't insult our fearless leader. So that's the latest. McConnell is viewed as the enemy. Because he didn't fall in line to,
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's weird that that someone who, well, to speak frankly, held out that Supreme Court seat and probably won that election for Donald Trump by doing that. I mean, at least helped him win it, can be viewed as the enemy because it's sort of, what have you done for me lately? But, I mean, Mitch McConnell is pure evil in my judgment for what he did with the open Supreme Court seat that Barack Obama wanted to fill. So, anyway, this is the week we'll have highlights for you from the Republican National Convention. Tomorrow, David K. Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, will talk about everything that we talked about today, and we'll add to it RNC stuff. Pat Thurston joins tomorrow, too, and Jefferson Graham joins tomorrow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Quite the show. The After Party Live with Kim is happening.
Bye-bye.
It's happening over the After Party Live channel. Thanks for all the love, everybody. Appreciate the support. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.